Today's featured artist is one of the most mysterious frontmen you're ever going to meet. Legally changing his name to a symbol, and he did it before Prince did. He claimed to be a time traveler from another planet. He also says that he's lived a past life on prehistoric Earth, back when the dinosaurs were roaming around. So I guess it's no surprise that the name of his band came from a cult classic 1950s Japanese science fiction film featuring aliens in capes. Hidden behind dark sunglasses, this frontman led his band out of nowhere to the top of the charts with one of the most unexpected songs of the entire rock era. He paved the way for an army of garage rockers ever after. He even inspired the phrase punk rock. This #1 hit has an inescapable riff that defined an era. No one really knew who the singer was. Let's try to find out who he is coming up next on Professor of Rock. Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. If you remember running around the house playing laser tag or photon, you're gonna dig this channel of deep musical nostalgia. Make sure to subscribe below right now. Check the bell so you get all of our stuff. So it's time for another edition of our series, Bottle Lightning, where we celebrate a song or an album that was king for a day or many days. Here we honor artists and bands that rocketed up the charts, but for reasons unknown, they weren't able to sustain that success. Called by some as one-hit wonders. Instead, we celebrate them as lightning in a bottle. Previous episodes, we've covered In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida by Iron Butterfly, Incense and Peppermints by Strawberry Alarm Clock, and Spirit in the Sky by Norman Greenbaum.
Your mind, incense and peppermints, the color of time. Going on to the spirit in the sky.
So for today's episode, we're headed back to a simpler time to experience a bottle lightning moment that had a hit song at its center, and I don't think anyone saw it coming. It's a hit with a hidden meaning that the songwriter refuses to reveal, and in fact, no one knew who the singer was because he didn't have a name. He claimed to be a time traveler. He and his band were known as Question Mark and the Mysterians, and the classic song was called 96 Tears.
96 tears.
So I gotta be upfront with you on this one. There's some pretty strange and at times contradictory stories swirling around this band and this song, some of which is completely intentional. Mystery was the name of the game for these guys, but we're going to do our best here to sort it out. So, who were they? Originally formed in Saginaw, Michigan in 1962, the founding members of Question Mark and the Mysterians consisted of bassist Larry Borjas, guitarist Bobby Valderrama, and drummer Robert Martinez. Brought together by their love of rock and roll, the trio jammed together for over a year before getting their first gig at a local Greek Orthodox church. Needing a singer to take the band to the next level, Robert suggested his strange older brother, whose name I'll keep confidential for now. We'll just call him Question Mark. By the end of the story, we're going to try to find out his real identity. Who knows if he really is this guy's brother, right? Apparently from a young age, Question Mark had dreamed of becoming a singer or a dancer on American Bandstand, and he had a gift. He was a natural-born entertainer. And needing a name for the band, Larry suggested the Mysterians. That came after he'd watched a Japanese sci-fi flick called The Mysterians on television. Think old school Godzilla. The movie featured aliens in capes for the destroyed planet Mysteroid who had come to conquer Earth. But the mystery didn't stop there. Question Mark has publicly stated that his soul was born on Mars, and that in a past life he lived at the time of the dinosaurs. So there's that. Despite the weirdness, or maybe because of it, Question Mark soon established himself as the band's creative core. And thereafter, they began to develop their signature garage rock sound, as well as cover songs by the Rolling Stones and the Beatles. Mysterians would add a keyboard player after that, 13-year-old little Frankie Rodriguez of Bay City. I guess he had been playing since he was 5 years old. Frank's keyboards would become a vital part of the Mysterians' eventual success. More on that in a second. With the addition of Frank, Question Mark and the Mysterians competed in Michigan's statewide Battle of the Bands in the summer of '65. Actually finished third. Before that, they had a manager, David Torres. He was taking them places. But after their rough showing in the Battle of the Bands, he actually quit. More on that in a second. Another complication that soon followed was that Larry and Robert were both about to be drafted for military service. They were stationed in Germany. This left the band without a bassist and a drummer, and they were on the verge of falling apart from there. However, Frank and Bobby continued to jam together as they figured out, what they were going to do next. One day, Frank ad-libbed an interesting organ riff. And started singing along to it. He used the lyrics to a poem that he had written years before that he called Too Many Teardrops.
Too many teardrops.
The infamous organ riff would become the defining characteristic of this song. And for the better part of 2 decades, it was actually believed that it had been written on a Farfisa organ. However, later revealed in a 1982 interview that it was a Vox Continental, not a Farfisa. Regardless, the forthcoming song, it was infectious, and it was on its way to becoming a garage rock standard, and one of the most recognizable tracks from its era.
For one heart to be crying.
According to a VH1 clip on the band years later, as they continued working on Too Many Teardrops, it was suggested they change the title of the song to 69 Teardrops. However, the guys realized that the sexual connotation would be a stumbling block to getting radio play, so they turned it around and changed it to 96 Tears instead. Reportedly, had some hesitation about using a number in the title of the song, mainly because the Rolling Stones had already released a single with a number in the title, 19th Nervous Breakdown, and he didn't want people thinking that they were ripping off the Stones.
And comes your 19th nervous breakdown.
But the band argued that no one was going to think that, so they just went with it. In terms of lyrics, although the track might initially seem like it might be a sad love song, it's really more of a revenge song, written about a girl who has done the singer wrong. Now he wants to make her pay. He's making plans to get back together for just a little while, and then he's going to put her way down here, whatever that means. Presumably where he is now.
Way down here.
And then she'll be the one crying 96 tears. Kind of messed up, if you think about it. By the end of the song, he's really getting into singing, "Come on, baby, let me hear you cry now." All night long, 96 tears.
96 tears.
As to why 96 tears, insists it's not just 69 flipped backwards. Rather, 96 has a deep and philosophical meaning, but one that he's refused to reveal. Any guesses? At this point, the band still needed a drummer and a bassist, so they talked brother-in-law Eddie Serrato, a drummer, into joining up. But still no bassist yet. But with 96 Tears coming together, the next step was to get it recorded. So Eddie Serrato knew a businesswoman in Saginaw named Lily Gonzalez, and she was the owner of a small record label. The band auditioned for Lily, and she became their manager from there. She then booked them into the Shills recording studio in April of 1966, which was basically a living room located in the back of the studio of Art Shill's house. For the sessions, Fernando Aguilar was brought to play the bass. And in addition to 96 Tears, the band also recorded a track called Midnight Hour. Apparently, there was barely enough room for all of their equipment, and Bobby Ballarama remembers moving a pool table so that they could all just fit in there. It took quite a few takes to get 96 Tears recorded, and since it was recorded on a 2-track machine, the band played and sang live at the same time. Afterwards, the band voted on which of the 2 songs would make the best A-side for their new single. And although was firmly in favor of 96 Tears, it was actually Midnight Hour that carried the vote. Later, after the recording session, the band was finally completed with the addition of bassist Big Frank Lugo, as opposed to Little Frankie Rodriguez. So by late April, 750 copies of the record were pressed on the Pa Go Go record label. And their manager, Lily Gonzalez, gave most of the singles to the band and told them to take them to record stores and hit up local DJs to get their songs some airtime. So the band started promoting the record all over Michigan. WSAM in Saginaw was the first station to play the Midnight Hour single. However, Question Mark was so sure that 96 Tears was the real hit, he actually went back to the station the next day and got the DJ to flip it over and play the B-side. So as we try to find out Question Mark's real identity, I do want to take a second and thank our sponsors, Zenni Eyewear. Glasses I always wear on here. What are your eyewear needs right now? Prescription glasses, readers, progressives, transition lenses, sunglasses, maybe blue blocks. Whatever they are, Zenni's got you covered, and you can design your own look. Just click on the info button right up here to get the best price for POR viewers, up to 80% off of regular retail prices. Click here today or below.
And when the sun comes up, I'll be on top.
So according to one story, in order to boost the numbers, Question Mark and Bobby reportedly sent 100 postcards to WSAM with phony names and addresses, each requesting 96 Tears. Thinking 96 postcards would have been more poetic, but apparently the dubious marketing ploy actually worked, getting the song played more often. Listener feedback was strong, very positive. Soon the song was a big radio hit in Bay City and Saginaw. The local popularity of the song led to regional success, and other radio stations in nearby towns received requests for this song. Eventually, 96 Tears was picked up in Detroit, where it became a regional #1 hit.
You be right down there, looking up, and out my way.
So the demand started to exceed the supply, and the tiny Pagogo label just couldn't keep up. So the band connected with Neil Bogart, who is president of Philadelphia-based Cameo Records. He actually bought the master from Pagogo, and he started to distribute it nationwide. He even accompanied the band to the East Coast and flew out with them to LA, where they actually appeared on American Bandstand and where the action is.
We all agree. Well, you know, he's always asking questions. Let me see if there's a question to ask here.
96 Tears.
With national distribution, 96 Tears entered the Billboard chart at number 112 and started climbing. By September 3rd, 1966, 96 Tears debuted on the Hot 100 at number 75. Then on October 29th, Question Mark and the Mysterians went all the way to the #1 spot, establishing 96 Tears as one of garage rock's all-time classics. Stayed on the top for a solitary week before being knocked off by, I think it was the Monkees' Last Train to Clarksville.
Take the last train to Clarksville, I'll be waiting at the station.
Additionally, 96 Tears also reached #1 on the US Cashbox chart. Internationally, it barely broke the top 40 in the UK, went to number 37, but went to number 27 in West Germany, number 20 in Belgium, number 11 in Austria, number 7 in France, number 3 in Brazil, and number 1 in Canada. So seemingly overnight, Question Mark and the Mysterians went from playing Michigan dance halls to being on national television. Before they knew it, they were sharing the stage with the Mamas and the Papas and the Four Seasons and the Beach Boys. So with 96 Tears emerging as a big-time hit, the label brought the group into Allegro Sound Studios in New York to record some new tracks. The resulting record, that was also titled 96 Tears and was released in November of '66. The band's next single, I Need Somebody, that also dropped the same month. However, it did fail to match the chart-dominating prowess of its predecessor. I believe it peaked at number 22. Even so, when Billboard published its year-end chart for 1966, the top records of the year, 96 Tears came in at number 2. It spent more weeks on the Hot 100 than every single that was released that year, with the exception of California Dreamin' by the Mamas and the Papas. That meant that 96 Tears had outperformed hit singles by the Beach Boys and the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and Simon and Garfunkel. Even Last Train to Clarksville by the Monkees, who had previously replaced him at number 1.
Wouldn't it be nice if we were older? We can work it out. We can work it out. See a red door and I want it painted black. I have an island.
It was amazing. In June of '67, Question Mark and the Mysterians then released their second album. It was called Action. Its release was preceded by 2 singles, though neither was very successful. Can't Get Enough of You Baby, which was an intentional callback to the organ sound of 96 Tears, was released in March of '67. That one peaked at number 56.
Can't get enough of you, baby. Yes, it's true.
And then Girl, You Captivate Me, a parentheses song, featured provocative lyrics for its day. It barely broke into the Billboard Hot 100. It stalled at number 98. By this point, it seemed as if 96 Tears was going to be the band's high-water mark. A handful of other non-album singles did follow, but nothing came close to matching the band's breakout track. In fact, none of them placed in the Hot 100 at all. By the end of the 60s, the original band was in shambles. Question Mark had a run-in with the law. He was actually busted for sniffing glue. They parted ways with Lily Gonzalez. The lineup had been shuffled enough times that they weren't really the same band anymore at all. Ultimately, Question Mark talked the former members into giving him the band name and any future royalties in exchange for a large royalty check that he had at the time. And then in the early 70s, Question Mark and the Mysterians returned with a new lineup. Featured 2 guitars, a bass, and no keyboards, though it didn't come to much. However, the revised sound did inspire Cream magazine writer Dave Marsh to coin the term punk rock in the 1971 article that he wrote about the band. Then 10 years later, in 81, Garland Jeffries revived 96 Tears, taking the song to number 96 on the Hot 100. This encouraged Question Mark to once again put together a new band of Mysterians, he being the only original member. But the original lineup played sporadic shows, and in 1984 they gathered for a reunion concert in Dallas, where they opened for Joe King Carrasco. As you can imagine, 96 Tears, it's been covered a lot over the years. I mean, in the 60s, it was drafted into the live sets of numerous garage bands. By the mid-70s, it was later revived by artists like Eddie and the Hot Rods. And it's continued to live on through the years. A lot of artists have covered this, including Aretha Franklin, Talking Heads, The Stranglers, Todd Rundgren, Paul Revere and the Raiders. There's Iggy Pop. Fastball, Patti Smith Group, even Bruce Springsteen covered it. So in 1997, Question Mark and the Mysterians officially reformed. Unable to secure the rights of their original master tapes, they chose to record a new version of the entire 96 Tears album. They simply called it Question Mark and the Mysterians. They took it to a whole new generation of fans. From there, more projects would follow into the new millennium. So as to solving the mystery about who Question Mark really was, or really is, well, the truth is he was born Rudy Martinez. And early on, when the band was known as just the Mysterians, they were playing a teenage dance in Saginaw, and that's where they met their first manager, David Torres. He had some ideas for the group, one of which was to make the Mysterians even more mysterious by renaming each band member. He gave Bobby the name X, Robert Y, and Larry Z. And he gave their singer Rudy, who was already performing in sunglasses and was already very mysterious. He's the one that gave him the name Question Mark. It was his idea. Of course, Question Mark liked the new moniker, and they added it to the band's name. Instead of the Mysterians, it was Question Mark and the Mysterians. Rudy was always a very eccentric guy. He loved the name, and he never took off the sunglasses. And this only added to the mystery. He just refused to divulge his true identity thereafter. And he made up this story about where he came from. In fact, during the band's heyday, Rudy Martinez legally changed his name to Question Mark. Not the words, but the actual symbol. And in interviews, he refused to divulge his birth name and continued to tell people that he was from Mars without ever breaking a smile. Kept wearing those dark sunglasses wherever he went, whether he was on stage or in the studio or being interviewed. He always made sure that he appeared to be Question Mark. In fact, one of his biggest problems were that female fans were always trying to rip the sunglasses off to see what his real identity was. He kept playing this game for a long time, and many rock and pop stars, they would follow in his footsteps, his secret identity fiasco, by creating an alter ego. Everybody from David Bowie to Prince to Chris Gaines. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Leave us a comment about Question Mark and the Mysterians and 96 Tears. What are your memories of this song? Until next time, 3 chords and the truth.